The late summer sun cast long shadows across the bustling riverfront of Globe, Arizona Territory, where Clara Mitchell stood watching flatboats laden with goods make their way down the Salt River. At 26, she'd carved out an unusual life for herself as the town's only female merchant, running the trading post her father had left her. Her dark hair pulled back in a practical braid, she studied the approaching vessels with keen eyes that missed little, especially when it came to business. Frances Turner, Clara's closest friend and the local schoolteacher, hurried down the wooden boardwalk toward the trading post, her normally composed demeanor ruffled. "Clara, the Pawnee are camped just north of town. A whole delegation of them. Chief Walking Thunder himself is leading them." Her words carried both excitement and apprehension, reflecting the town's mixed feelings about their Native American neighbors. The news stirred something in Clara. Unlike many settlers, she'd developed a cautious respect for the Pawnee through years of trade. They were skilled negotiators who valued honesty, a trait she shared. Still, their presence in such numbers was unusual. Through the trading post's wide windows, she watched Alexander Roberts, the town's sheriff, gathering a small group of men near the livery stable. Inside the trading post, Clara methodically checked her inventory while pondering the situation. The shelves held an eclectic mix of goods, rows of preserved foods, tools, cloth, and medicines. She'd added traditional Pawnee items too, specially tanned hides and intricately beaded works, much to the confusion of some townspeople. But Clara understood that survival in the territory meant building bridges, not walls. The bell above the door chimed as Helen Perez, the doctor's wife, entered with her young son Noah. "Clara, you should hear the talk in town. Some say the Pawnee are here because of the drought pushing them south. Others claim they're looking to establish new hunting grounds." Helen's dark eyes reflected worry as she selected basic supplies, the kind of worry that could turn a delicate situation dangerous if it spread. Benjamin Phillips, the aging owner of the lumber mill, stomped in next, his weathered face creased with annoyance. "This'll be bad for business, mark my words. Who will want to send their goods downriver with a war party camped nearby?" He jabbed a finger toward the window where more boats were appearing. Clara bit back a sharp reply, knowing his fears, though misplaced, were genuine. As the afternoon wore on, Clara observed increasing tension in the streets. Ethan Turner, Frances's brother and the town's youngest council member, was organizing an impromptu meeting at the courthouse. She watched mothers hurrying their children inside, men gathering in worried clusters, hands never far from their weapons. The familiar rhythm of river trade was giving way to something more ominous. That evening, Clara sat in her small office above the trading post, writing in her ledger by lamplight. Through the open window came the sound of horses, not the usual clip-clop of local traffic, but the steady approach of multiple riders. Setting aside her pen, she moved to the window. In the gathering dusk, she could make out a group of mounted Pawnee warriors making their way down Main Street, their presence both regal and unsettling. Leading them was a figure Clara recognized from previous trading encounters. Chief Walking Thunder himself, distinguished by his elaborate headdress and the way other warriors deferred to him. But something was different this time. The chief's face bore signs of deep concern, and riding close beside him was a young man who swayed precariously in his saddle, clearly injured or ill. As the group drew nearer to the trading post, Clara's mind raced through possibilities. The Pawnee rarely entered town in such numbers unless circumstances were dire. Whatever had brought them here, she suspected it would test not only her own carefully built relationships, but the very foundations of peace in Globe. The crystal hanging at her throat, a family heirloom she always wore, seemed to grow warmer, as if sensing the weight of what was to come. Clara stepped out onto the trading post's wooden porch, her boots creaking against the weathered planks. The crystal at her throat pulsed with an unusual warmth as Chief Walking Thunder dismounted with fluid grace despite his obvious distress. His son, whom Clara now recognized as the swaying rider, looked even worse up close. His bronze skin had taken on an ashen pallor, and dark circles ringed his eyes. The trading post's location along the Salt River had made it a natural meeting point between settlers and the Pawnee, but never had Clara seen such urgency in their approach. Behind her, she could hear Frances, her assistant, nervously arranging items on the shelves through the open door. The young woman had only been in Globe for 3 months and had yet to grow accustomed to their Native American trading partners. "My son grows weaker with each passing hour," Walking Thunder spoke in careful English, his deep voice carrying the weight of a father's worry. The medicine man's remedies have failed, and we seek help from those who know the white man's healing ways." As if to emphasize his father's words, the young man stumbled as he dismounted, caught quickly by two warriors who had flanked his horse. Clara's mind immediately went to Helen, the town's healer who lived in a small cabin near the river's bend. The woman had an uncanny knowledge of both traditional medicines and native remedies, learned during her years of trading with various tribes. But reaching her meant crossing through territory that had recently seen increased raids from hostile bands pushed south by drought and hunger. The crystal grew warmer still as Clara weighed her options. The truth it revealed was clear. Helping Walking Thunder's son could strengthen the delicate peace between Globe and the Pawnee, while refusing aid might shatter years of careful diplomacy. She thought of Noah, the town's sheriff, who had worked tirelessly to maintain that peace despite pressure from settlers who viewed any Native American presence as a threat. "There's someone who might help," Clara said finally, meeting the chief's worried gaze. "But reaching her will be dangerous. The path to her cabin has become treacherous since the raiders began moving through the valley." She didn't mention the rumors that some of those raiders were renegade Pawnee themselves. That truth wouldn't serve anyone now. Walking Thunder nodded gravely, understanding the unspoken complexities. "My warriors will ensure safe passage," he promised, gesturing to the mounted men who remained alert despite their stoic expressions. "But we must move quickly. The sun sets, and my son's fever rises with the moon." Inside the trading post, Frances had stopped pretending to organize and stood listening, her face pale but determined. Clara knew the young woman had come west seeking adventure, though perhaps not quite the kind that now presented itself. "Frances," Clara called, "fetch my medicine bag and the map from the back room. We'll need them both." The next few minutes passed in a flurry of preparation. Clara gathered supplies while explaining to Frances how to manage the trading post in her absence. The crystal's warmth had spread across her chest now, almost uncomfortably so, as if urging her to hurry. Through the windows, she could see the sun painting the western sky in shades of amber and crimson, beautiful but foreboding. As Clara stepped back onto the porch, now equipped for the journey, she noticed Alexander, the blacksmith's son, watching from across the street with undisguised curiosity. News would spread quickly through Globe that Clara had left with the Pawnee party. She could only hope Noah would understand her decision and help maintain order until she returned. Assuming, of course, that she did return. The Pawnee warriors waited silently as Clara secured her saddlebags, their faces impassive but their eyes reflecting a mix of respect and wariness. The crystal pressed against her skin beneath her blouse seemed to pulse in time with her quickening heartbeat. She knew the journey ahead would take them north along the Salt River, away from the relative safety of Globe, and into territories where ancient tribal conflicts still simmered beneath uneasy truces. Through the gathering dusk, she caught sight of Noah emerging from the sheriff's office, his weathered face creased with concern. He crossed the dusty street with purposeful strides, and Clara braced herself for the argument she knew was coming. As the town's lawman, Noah had always been protective of Globe's residents, particularly since the recent raids had started along the river trading routes. "You can't seriously be considering this, Clara," Noah said in a low voice, positioning himself between her and the waiting warriors. "We've got reports of renegade bands moving through the canyons. Even with an escort, it's too dangerous." His hand rested instinctively on his holstered revolver, though he was careful to keep the gesture subtle. The lead warrior, who had introduced himself as Standing Bear, dismounted with fluid grace and approached them. "The woman who bears the crystal of truth is under our protection," he stated firmly in careful English. "The spirits have chosen her path." Clara noticed how the other warriors straightened in their saddles at his words, their earlier stoicism giving way to something that looked almost like pride. Frances appeared in the trading post doorway, clutching a small leather-bound book to her chest. "Clara," she called out softly, "I found something in your father's old journal. There's a map showing ancient caves along the river route you're taking. He wrote about meeting with tribal elders there during the peace talks 10 years ago." The young woman hurried forward, pressing the worn volume into Clara's hands. As Clara leafed through the familiar pages of her father's precise handwriting, the crystal's warmth intensified. She found herself drawn to a particular passage describing a hidden valley, where, according to tribal legends, the crystal had first been discovered generations ago. The crystal pulsed with an otherworldly blue glow as Anna Mitchell held it up to the afternoon light streaming through the trading post's grimy windows. 2 weeks had passed since she'd saved the Pawnee chief's son from certain death at Eagle Cliffs, and still she struggled to understand the strange gift he'd pressed into her hands before departing. The traders gathering at Prescott's bustling riverside docks whispered that such crystals could reveal hidden truths, but Anna remained skeptical of such claims. Frances Turner burst through the trading post's swinging doors, her face flushed with urgency. "Anna, you need to see this. There's something strange happening down by the river." The two women had formed an unlikely friendship since Anna arrived in Prescott 6 months ago to help run her uncle's store. Frances, a skilled herbalist who traded with both settlers and tribes, had taken Anna under her wing. Outside, an unsettling scene greeted them. The usually busy docks stood eerily empty, save for Benjamin Roberts pacing anxiously near his riverboat. The seasoned captain's weathered face bore an expression Anna had never seen before: raw fear. As they approached, he gestured frantically toward the murky waters. "Look there, just beneath the surface. Been watching it for an hour now. Never seen anything like it." The crystal in Anna's pocket grew unexpectedly warm as she peered into the depths. At first, she saw only the river's normal swirling currents. Then something shifted. A massive dark shape moving with deliberate purpose just below the waterline. The crystal pulsed again, and suddenly Anna could see it clearly. An enormous serpentine creature, its scaled hide reflecting hints of copper and gold in the filtered sunlight. "The tribes speak of river guardians," Frances whispered, her expert knowledge of native lore surfacing. "But I always thought they were just stories." Before she could continue, a commotion erupted from the far bank. A group of riders approached at full gallop, led by the imposing figure of Alexander Phillips, Prescott's newly appointed territorial marshal. His reputation for solving problems with violence had preceded his arrival last month. The marshal's thundering voice carried across the water. "Clear these docks immediately. We've got reports of saboteurs targeting river trade. Nobody goes near the water until we've secured the area." But Anna's crystal vibrated insistently, and she knew with startling certainty that Phillips was lying. The truth lay beneath those dark waters, and somehow she had become entangled in its revelation. That evening, Anna met secretly with Frances and Benjamin in the back room of the trading post. The crystal's soft glow cast dancing shadows on the rough-hewn walls as they spoke in hushed tones. "There's more going on here than Phillips is telling us," Benjamin said, his decades of river experience evident in his cautious words. "Trade's been dropping off for months, but not because of any saboteurs." Frances laid out a collection of dried herbs on the table between them. "The local tribes have been stockpiling these, medicines for treating poisoning. They know something we don't." She picked up a twisted root, its surface stained an unnatural blue. "I found traces of this same color in the river water, growing stronger each week. Something's contaminating the whole system." The crystal flared brightly when Anna placed it near Frances's herbs, confirming their suspicions. "We need to find out what's happening upstream," Anna declared. "But Phillips has posted armed men along the banks. He's watching every boat that tries to leave." Benjamin nodded grimly, already understanding what she was suggesting. They would have to find another way, one that didn't involve the heavily patrolled river. Jacob Turner, Frances's brother and Prescott's most skilled tracker, joined their clandestine meeting an hour later. His usual good humor was absent as he spread a weathered map across the table. "There's an old Pawnee trail that runs parallel to the river," he explained, tracing the route with a calloused finger. "It's rough country, but it'll get us past Phillips's patrols if we're careful." The crystal's warmth intensified as they planned, almost as if it approved of their chosen course. Anna found herself wondering if the Pawnee chief had known what was coming when he gave her the crystal. Had he recognized something in her? Some quality that would be needed in the days ahead? The river's secrets were about to be revealed, whether Marshal Phillips wanted them exposed or not. As dawn approached, they made final preparations for their journey. Noah Mitchell, Anna's young cousin, insisted on joining them despite her protests. His skill with horses would prove valuable, she had to admit. The crystal's glow seemed to encompass them all now, binding them together in what they all recognized would be a dangerous undertaking. Whatever truth lay upstream, it would change everything for the river communities of Prescott. The next morning, while Marshal Phillips and his men focused their attention on the docks, 5 figures slipped quietly out of town. They followed Jacob's lead into the rugged wilderness, leaving the river's edge but never straying too far from its course. Anna kept one hand on the crystal, drawing comfort from its steady warmth. Above them, storm clouds gathered ominously, as if nature itself was responding to the mounting tension. Their first significant discovery came near dusk, when Jacob led them to a hidden overlook. Below, in a sheltered valley that should have been empty, they found evidence of extensive mining operations. The crystal pulsed urgently as Anna took in the scene. Mechanical diggers, ore processing equipment, and holding ponds filled with strangely colored water. Everything had been carefully concealed from river traffic, but from their elevated position, the operation's massive scale became clear. As they crouched behind a granite outcropping, Jacob pointed out the armed guards patrolling the perimeter of the mining operation. These weren't simple prospectors or miners. Their movements were too disciplined, their weapons too uniform. Anna noticed they all wore distinctive red bandanas, marking them as members of the notorious Red River Gang that had been terrorizing settlements upriver from Prescott. The crystal grew warmer in Anna's hands as she observed a well-dressed man emerging from a temporary office structure. Even from this distance, she recognized Alexander Blackwood, one of Prescott's most prominent merchants. He was supposed to be in Flagstaff negotiating trade agreements, not overseeing an illegal mining operation that was clearly poisoning the river. The truth of his deception made the crystal pulse with an intense blue light that she had to quickly conceal. Thunder rolled overhead as Benjamin carefully sketched the layout in his journal, documenting the location of each building and piece of equipment. The storm would provide good cover, but it also meant they'd need to find shelter soon. Helen spotted a cave entrance partially hidden by scrub brush about a quarter-mile north. They could wait out the weather there while planning their next move. Inside the cave, Francis built a small, smokeless fire while Clara kept watch at the entrance. The group huddled together as Jacob shared what he knew about the Red River Gang's operations. They'd been systematically buying or driving out smaller mining claims along the river. But this was the first evidence linking them to someone as influential as Alexander Blackwood. The implications were staggering. If he was involved, other powerful figures in Prescott might be as well. The crystal's warmth guided Anna's thoughts to Noah, the young deputy marshal she'd met briefly in town. He'd seemed honest, different from the others who'd dismissed her concerns about the river's changing color. Perhaps he could be trusted with what they'd discovered, but reaching out to any law enforcement was risky when they didn't know how deep the corruption went. As night fell and the storm intensified, Helen shared her own discovery. She'd recognized some of the equipment being used at the mine. It was identical to machinery that had been stolen from her father's warehouse in Globe 3 months ago. The pieces were starting to fit together, revealing a conspiracy far larger than any of them had initially suspected. Benjamin's careful voice cut through the quiet cave. He'd been studying the maps they'd brought, correlating them with his sketches of the mining operation. The site was positioned at a crucial junction where several underground water sources fed into the river. If they were introducing toxic mining chemicals at this point, it would explain the widespread contamination they'd observed downstream. It was a deliberately chosen location, designed to maximize damage while maintaining deniability. The crystal pulsed again as Anna remembered the sick children in Prescott, the failing crops, the dying livestock. This wasn't just about profit, it was about control. By poisoning the river, the conspirators could force people to abandon their homes and lands, clearing the way for complete control of the region's resources. The truth made her sick, but it also strengthened her resolve. Just before midnight, the storm began to ease. Clara returned from her watch position with troubling news. She'd spotted torchlights moving through the hills. The Red River Gang was conducting patrols, and their patterns suggested they were searching for something, or someone. Their discovery of the mining operation hadn't gone unnoticed after all. Jacob quickly doused their small fire while Francis gathered their supplies. They needed to move, but the darkness and wet terrain made travel treacherous. Anna clutched the crystal, letting its warmth guide her as they slipped out of the cave. Their only hope was to make it back to Prescott before the gang caught up with them, but they'd have to take an indirect route to avoid the searching parties. As they carefully picked their way through the rocky terrain, Anna's mind raced with possibilities. The crystal had led them to this truth, but knowing it put them all in danger. They needed proof that would stand up in court, evidence that even corrupted officials couldn't ignore. And they needed allies, trusted ones, if they were going to expose this conspiracy without getting themselves killed in the process. The crystal pulsed with an eerie blue light in Anna Mitchell's palm as she gazed across the churning waters of the Verde River. The trading post at Prescott had grown eerily quiet, with most residents taking shelter behind locked doors. Word had spread quickly about the approaching band of renegades. Not Native Americans as many had initially feared, but a ruthless gang of former Confederate soldiers who'd been raiding settlements up and down the river, leaving destruction in their wake. Frances Turner clutched her rifle tighter as she joined Anna on the wooden platform overlooking the water. The two women had formed an unlikely friendship since Anna saved the Pawnee chief's son 3 months ago. Frances had initially been skeptical of the crystal's supposed truth-revealing powers, but she'd witnessed enough inexplicable moments to know there was something extraordinary about the translucent stone. "They'll come at sunset," Anna whispered, the crystal's glow intensifying as she spoke. "The crystal shows me their hearts are black with greed. They believe we're hiding a cache of Confederate gold." She turned to Frances with worried eyes. "Benjamin Phillips convinced half the town to flee to Flagstaff, but those who stayed, we need to protect them." The crystal had never led her astray, though its visions often came in fragments and riddles. Ethan Roberts, the town's skilled carpenter who'd lost an arm in the war, worked furiously to reinforce the trading post's defenses. His expertise with wood had proven invaluable as they prepared for the coming assault. The way he looked at Frances hadn't gone unnoticed by Anna. There was tenderness there, beneath his gruff exterior. In another time, perhaps their budding romance could have flourished naturally. Alexander Perez, the half-Mexican riverboat captain who'd made Prescott his home port, had positioned his vessel strategically across the river's bend. The paddle wheel steamer would serve as both a lookout post and potential escape route if things went badly. He'd seen firsthand the devastation these renegades had wrought in other river settlements, and he was determined to prevent the same fate here. The crystal's warnings had given them precious time to prepare, but Anna feared it wouldn't be enough. She'd seen glimpses of fire, heard phantom echoes of gunshots and screams. Yet the crystal had also shown her something else, a way to turn the river itself into their ally. The renegades didn't know about the ancient Pawnee Dam upstream, or how its release could transform the gentle Verde into a raging torrent. Clara Phillips, Benjamin's wife and the town's schoolteacher, had organized the remaining women and children in the sturdy stone church. Her quiet strength had emerged in the crisis, teaching them to reload cartridges and tend to wounds. She'd lost her first husband at Gettysburg, and the steel in her spine showed she wouldn't lose her home to these raiders. As the sun began its descent, Noah Turner, Frances's younger brother and the town's best marksman, took his position in the church's bell tower. The crystal had revealed the raiders' leader was a man he'd served with in the war, a once honorable captain, now twisted by bitterness and greed. The knowledge weighed heavily on Noah's conscience, but he knew what had to be done. The first shots came just as Anna's crystal had foretold, with the dying sun painting the river blood red. The renegades had split their forces, attacking from both the north bank and south. But Anna's foreknowledge had allowed them to prepare a devastating surprise. As the raiders charged across the shallow ford, Alexander gave the signal. Upstream, Jacob Turner released the dam's ancient logs, sending a wall of water thundering down the Verde. The crystal blazed like blue lightning in Anna's hands as chaos erupted. Horses screamed and men shouted as the surge caught them mid-crossing. Noah's precise shots from the bell tower dropped the few raiders who managed to reach the bank. Frances and Ethan coordinated the town's defenders, their movements synchronized as if they'd fought together for years. The crystal's power seemed to flow through all of them, guiding their actions with uncanny precision. Yet victory came at a cost. The renegades' desperate final push nearly overwhelmed the trading post's defenses. Clara took a bullet in the shoulder while protecting the children. Alexander's beloved riverboat was badly damaged by cannon fire, and the crystal, which had served them so faithfully, began to crack under the strain of channeling so much truth at once. As dawn broke over the blood-stained waters, the surviving raiders fled into the hills, their dreams of Confederate gold shattered. The crystal in Anna's hands had gone dark, its power apparently spent. But its final gift had been to show her a vision of Prescott's future, not just surviving, but thriving as a beacon of hope along the Verde. The truth it had revealed wasn't just about their enemies, but about the strength that comes from a community united by trust and courage. Frances found Anna sitting alone by the river as the town began rebuilding. "The crystal may be dark," she said softly, "but its light lives on in what we learned about ourselves." Anna smiled, knowing her friend spoke true. The renegades had sought gold but found instead the real treasure of Prescott, its people's unbreakable spirit, forged stronger by facing darkness together. As the dust settled over Prescott, Anna found herself drawn to the broken crystal's remaining fragments, each shard still holding a faint luminescence that pulsed like a dying heartbeat. The townspeople had begun the arduous task of rebuilding, but she knew the real work lay in healing the invisible wounds that the raid had left behind. Frances stood beside her, watching as workers cleared debris from the trading post's scorched walls. The Verde River flowed on, indifferent to the human drama that had unfolded along its banks. Alexander, the town's seasoned blacksmith, worked tirelessly to forge new tools from the wreckage, his hammer's rhythm becoming a heartbeat for Prescott's recovery. The surviving raiders' retreat had left questions unanswered, and Anna couldn't shake the feeling that the crystal's final vision held more meaning than she'd first understood. Clara, who'd lost her husband in the defense of the town, emerged as an unexpected leader, organizing the women into efficient crews that restored homes and businesses with remarkable speed. Her grief transformed into purpose, inspiring others to push beyond their own pain. The trading post, once a simple commercial hub, was being rebuilt as a fortress-like structure that would serve as both marketplace and refuge. Word spread along the river routes of Prescott's victory, drawing curious visitors from Flagstaff and even distant Yuma. Among them came Noah, a mysterious trader who claimed to recognize the crystal's origins. He spoke of similar artifacts among the Pawnee, each imbued with different powers but all connected to the land's ancient truths. His presence stirred both hope and unease in Anna's heart. The crystal fragments began to respond differently under Noah's examination. When placed in specific patterns, they revealed ghostly images of the surrounding territory, showing paths and hideouts the raiders had used. Frances recognized several locations from her trading expeditions, and a plan began to form. If they could map these secret routes, they could protect not just Prescott, but all the settlements along the Verde. Helen, the town's schoolteacher, discovered that children who handled the crystal shards developed an uncanny ability to sense approaching danger. She worked with Anna to document these phenomena, creating a detailed record of the crystal's powers, even as they faded. Their research revealed patterns connecting the artifact to the land's natural rhythms, suggesting its power had never truly resided in the stone itself, but in its ability to amplify truths already present. The defeated raiders' leader, captured and held in the newly fortified jail, finally broke his silence when confronted with the largest remaining crystal fragment. Through its revealing light, he spoke of a larger conspiracy reaching from globe to territories unknown, of powerful men who sought to control the river trade through violence and deception. His confession sparked a fierce debate about justice and mercy among the townspeople. As summer heat shimmered over the Verde, Anna and Frances led an expedition to return the crystal fragments to the Pawnee lands where the original had been gifted. The journey would be perilous, but both women understood that some truths needed to be returned to their source. Clara joined them, seeking closure for her loss, while Noah offered to guide them through territories he claimed to know well. The remaining crystal shards pulsed stronger as they traveled north, their light growing more intense with each mile. Anna began to understand that the artifact's destruction hadn't ended its power but transformed it, spreading its truth-revealing properties across many pieces that could never again be controlled by a single hand. This discovery brought both comfort and concern. What would it mean for the future of the frontier? In the quiet moments around campfires, the travelers shared stories of how Prescott had changed them all. Frances spoke of trading routes now marked by trust rather than suspicion, while Clara described the strength she'd found in helping others rebuild their lives. The crystal fragments, carefully wrapped in soft leather, seemed to hum in response to their words, as if confirming the power of shared truth. Their journey became a symbol of Prescott's transformation, from a simple river trading post to a community bound by something stronger than commerce or survival. The truth the crystal had revealed wasn't just about enemies and allies, but about the connections that grow between people who choose to stand together in dark times. As they rode north, Anna realized that perhaps this had been the crystal's greatest gift. Not the power to see truth, but the courage to live it. Anna Mitchell held the truth crystal close as she gazed across the churning waters of the Colorado River. The trading post at Yuma had transformed into a makeshift fortress, with townspeople working frantically to reinforce walls and stockpile supplies. The crystal's pale blue light pulsed gently against her palm, revealing the gravity of what was to come. Chief Running Bear's warning had been clear. A massive coalition of renegade warriors was moving toward the settlement, seeking revenge for perceived betrayals by corrupt traders upriver. Helen Turner wiped sweat from her brow as she helped Benjamin Roberts stack sandbags along the trading post's vulnerable eastern wall. The desert wind carried whispers of approaching danger, but she couldn't help stealing glances at the mysterious crystal Anna clutched. Since saving the chief's son from that treacherous cliff face 2 months ago, Anna had become both blessed and burdened by the crystal's power to expose deception. Now that gift would be tested as never before. Frances Perez organized the women and children in the main storehouse, converting it into a makeshift infirmary and shelter. Her steady hands sorted medical supplies while her mind raced with possibilities. As the settlement's healer, she knew they were woefully unprepared for what approached. But the crystal had revealed something else. There were traitors among them, those who would open the gates to the attackers under cover of darkness. The afternoon sun cast long shadows as Alexander Phillips and Noah Turner patrolled the walls, rifles at the ready. They had fought alongside Chief Running Bear's people before, learning their ways and earning their trust. But this approaching force was different. Desperate men twisted by hatred and false promises. Anna had seen the truth of it in the crystal's depths. These warriors sought not just plunder, but annihilation. Clara Roberts moved quietly through the gathering crowd, her keen eyes noting signs of fear and resolve among the defenders. As the trading post's record keeper, she knew every face, every story. The crystal had shown Anna which ones bore watching, including Jacob Mitchell, Anna's own brother, whose gambling debts had led him to consider betraying them all. Clara's heart ached for her friend's burden of knowledge. As dusk approached, Anna gathered the town's leaders in the main office. The crystal's light danced across weathered faces as she revealed what she had seen. Not just the external threat, but the rot within. Jacob stood in the shadows, shame and defiance warring in his eyes as his sister named him before the others. But instead of condemnation, he found understanding. They had all made mistakes. What mattered now was how they chose to act. Through the long night, the defenders worked to shore up their positions. Benjamin and Alexander organized hunting parties to gather extra food and water. Frances and Helen prepared bandages and medicines. Clara documented everything, creating a record for whatever future might come. And Jacob, granted a chance at redemption, threw himself into the preparations with desperate energy. Dawn broke over the river, painting the water blood red. The crystal showed Anna the approaching warriors, hundreds strong, moving through the desert like shadows. But it also revealed something else: divisions and doubts among the attackers. Some had been deceived about the trading post's supposed crimes. Others fought only because they believed they had no choice. Understanding bloomed like hope in Anna's heart. When the attack came, it was not as anyone expected. Anna stood atop the walls, holding the crystal high. Its light blazed like a beacon, cutting through the morning haze. The truth it revealed reached not just the defenders but the attackers as well. Warriors paused, weapons lowered, as years of lies and manipulation became clear. The real enemies were the corrupt traders upriver who had played both sides against each other. Chief Running Bear himself arrived as the sun reached its peak, his presence transforming conflict into counsel. The crystal's power had broken the cycle of violence, revealing a path to peace. Jacob found redemption in helping broker agreements between the trading post and the tribes. Frances and Helen tended to wounds both physical and spiritual. Clara recorded the historic meeting where former enemies became allies. In the days that followed, Yuma's trading post became something new, a place of honest exchange and shared understanding. The crystal remained with Anna, its power a reminder that truth, though sometimes painful, held the key to healing. The defenders had protected more than just walls and goods. They had preserved the possibility of a different future, one built on trust rather than fear. As summer faded into autumn, the crystal's light seemed to dim, its work accomplished. Anna knew that some truths needed no magical revelation. They lived in the choices people made, the bridges they built, the wounds they healed. She placed the crystal in a special place of honor in the trading post's main hall, where its soft glow served as a constant reminder that the greatest defense against darkness was the light of truth itself. As winter settled over Yuma's trading post, The changes wrought by that fateful summer took root and flourished. Anna found herself increasingly sought out as a mediator between settlers and tribal leaders. Her reputation for fairness, enhanced not by the crystal's power, but by her own hard-won wisdom. The trading post transformed from a simple exchange of goods into a gathering place where different cultures could meet in peace, sharing stories and traditions across the divide that had once seemed uncrossable. Frances established a healing garden behind the trading post, combining her knowledge of Western medicine with the traditional remedies shared by the tribal healers who now regularly visited. The rows of sage, yarrow, and echinacea stretched toward the river, tended by both settler and Native American hands. Helen often worked alongside her, the two women's friendship deepening as they learned from each other's different approaches to mending both body and spirit. Clara's detailed records of the peace negotiations became a living document, with new pages added as more tribes joined the alliance. She worked tirelessly with Alexander to establish fair trading practices that would benefit all parties, their shared vision of ethical commerce spreading to other trading posts along the river. Their partnership gradually blossomed into something deeper, though both maintained a professional demeanor in public. The crystal's placement in the main hall proved prophetic. During council meetings, its subtle glow seemed to encourage honesty and open dialogue. Even skeptics who dismissed its supposed powers couldn't deny the atmosphere of trust it fostered. Benjamin, once the most vocal critic of working with the tribes, became one of the strongest advocates for cooperation, his transformation a testament to the power of changed hearts. As spring approached, word spread of Yuma's success. Traders from Flagstaff and Prescott made the journey to witness this new way of doing business. Noah and Ethan established regular patrols that included both settlers and tribal warriors, their combined knowledge of the land creating an early warning system that protected all who lived in the region. The former enemies became brothers in arms, sharing meals and stories around evening fires. Alice took charge of educating the children, creating a school where young ones from all backgrounds learned together. She incorporated tribal stories and history alongside traditional lessons, understanding that knowledge was the foundation of lasting peace. The sounds of children's laughter in multiple languages became a daily melody at the trading post. Jacob's role evolved from that of a simple trader to a diplomatic liaison, his natural charm and integrity making him perfectly suited to navigate the complex relationships between different groups. He never forgot the day Anna had saved the chief's son, often recounting the story to newcomers as the moment when everything began to change. The crystal's power seemed to fade as winter gave way to spring, but its influence had already shaped a new reality. Anna sometimes caught glimpses of its old brilliance during particularly meaningful moments, when longtime enemies clasped hands in friendship, when shared grief turned to shared healing, when the next generation took their first steps toward a future unburdened by the prejudices of the past. By the time the first anniversary of that transformative summer approached, Yuma's trading post had become a model for peaceful coexistence throughout the territory. Traders from as far as Globe sought to understand and replicate its success. The crystal, though no longer actively revealing hidden truths, remained a symbol of the change possible when people chose to see beyond their fears and prejudices. Anna often stood at the river's edge at sunset, watching the water flow past the thriving community she'd helped create. The trading post's lights reflected on the surface like stars, each one representing a family, a story, a piece of the complex tapestry they'd woven together. The crystal's greatest gift, she realized, hadn't been its power to reveal truth, but its role in showing them all that truth had been within their hearts all along, waiting only for the courage to embrace it. As the story of Yuma's transformation spread throughout the territory, it became clear that the true magic hadn't been in the crystal at all, but in the people who had chosen to believe in the possibility of change. The trading post stood as a testament to the power of trust, healing, and the enduring strength of bridges built between different worlds, its legacy destined to influence generations to come.